Hi everyone, this is Martha. I am a clinical sexologist and a relationship counselor. I am from Singapore and I'm at the Bali International Airport. I am going to go back to Singapore in about, let me check, 2 hours and 20 minutes. So I just bought a new book, and at the Bali International Airport, and it's a book that I've always had on my list of recommended books, and it's one thing to sorry about the noise. So this is where I'm at.
Your attention please. Malindo Air passengers on flight number
And I'm sitting on a pink chair. I chose the nicest pink. And okay, so this is the book I got. It's called Amazing You, and it might be inverted for you. It might be inverted. So it's Amazing You, Getting Smart About Your Private Parts by Gail Saltz, and it's a children's sex ed book. And as I started to mention just now, it has been on my recommended sex ed books for a really long time. And even though I didn't have this book, I recommended it because it was highly recommended many times by many of my colleagues. So when I saw this at the airport just now, even though I try very hard not to buy any more books because I already have a few hundred books at home, I knew I had to get this book because it's quite difficult to get sex ed related or sexuality related books anywhere in Asia really, and I was surprised to find it in Bali. I definitely have never seen it in Singapore, and when I have ordered sex ed books, I've had to order them from Amazon. And when I was doing my doctorate in human sexuality, this was 12 years ago, I couldn't find many in the National Library either. And I'm not talking about one national library, I'm talking about the entire library system in Singapore. There's not many sex ed books that I could get, much less sex ed books for kids. So when I have a few sex ed books for kids actually, surprise, even though I'm not a parent, because I wanted to just keep them for when there's an opportunity for me to present to parents, and I would have a few for them to look at before they decide to buy. So I see this as a responsibility of a sex educator to have some books that people could look at, even if it's just to browse through. And as you know, a sex ed book for a child is usually small and easy to browse through, but I still kept them because I wanted to use them possibly for workshops. So this is why I bought this just now, because even though I'm not a parent, I felt very responsible that I need to have some sex ed books that I could show when I run my workshops. So this book, I have already started to flip through, and I have to say I love it. I really love it. So last week before I came to Bali, I did a sex ed workshop for parents of kids with intellectual disability. And I was telling them that I have a list of sex ed books for parents, but because their children have intellectual disability, that they need to go for even simpler, more straightforward sex ed books for children. And there are some sex ed books for children that are actually too complicated. They think they're trying to be funny, they put jokes into it, they do it in the form of a comic, but actually even as an adult, when I read it, I'm like, okay, the child needs to be of a certain intellect in order to get the I don't know what you call it, the jokes or humor that is weaved into these books. So they need to be simple and straightforward for people who doesn't find English as their primary language, and so it needs to be simple and straightforward. especially for parents with intellectual disability kids. So I went through my list of the books that I would safely recommend to these parents, and honestly there were this was one of them, because it was for kids of a lower intellect. Say for instance, if you have a kid whose IQ is lower, they may be physically 30 years old, but their intellect could be the mental age of a 5-year-old. So you need to be able to give them books that are cheaper. I'm sorry, it's so noisy. It's so noisy, it just won't stop. Oh my god! I'm trying to make the video, and then I keep trying to raise my voice above the announcements, and the announcements won't stop. What did I expect, right? This is the airport departure lounge. Okay, so it's a good thing that they're making this announcement in different languages so that everybody can understand what is being announced, because you definitely don't want to miss your airplane. And I'm right now at departure lounge 1A, and because I'm taking a budget airline, so it's pretty open, and finally they stopped. Okay, so I was just saying that I'm getting this book. I got this book at the Bali International Airport, and it has been on my recommended sex ed list for parents for a really long time. Not because I have read it, but because it was highly recommended by many of my colleagues, and because it is really for kids like maybe 5. So this would also be a good resource for parents whose kids have intellectual disability. So I'm going to take you through a few pages because I've gone through it very quickly. So I'm a speed reader as well. I can speed read and I can type really fast. Like I can type 45 words, sorry, not 45, 75 or at least 75 words per minute, because I've done a typing test. Okay, just to show you the book. Okay. Sorry. I'm trying to, yeah, I need an assistant. Okay, so a note for parents. If you're like most parents, you may find that your preschool child is beginning to ask questions about his or her body. Hopefully this book will be a useful useful tool to guide you through those first conversations about sexuality. This book was, it doesn't say when it was published. Yes, so the text copyright was 2005, and it's still very much relevant. So it says, first page, take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. Take a good look at yourself in the mirror. What do you see? Head, arms, hands, legs and feet. So this is great because this is what we do when you're learning about first you learn about your name as a child, and then you learn about the different parts of your body. And so this is a refresher of what they probably already know. So before you go into that, you remind them of what they already know, and this is very much part of being an educator. And then you see what they do with their body. These are the parts of your body that we can all see. You use them every time you hug your mom, ride a bicycle or eat a snack. But what about the other parts? The parts that nobody but you sees. Isn't it see? What do they do? What does I feel like I'm reading a bedtime story, but I'm not. I'm just showing you a bit of the book. So we call those parts private parts, the parts that people don't see, because they stay hidden under your clothes or underwear. They belong to you and they are special. So already you start to introduce to the child the difference between public and personal space. And so you already start to remind them, like when it's private, like for instance, when they have their tree house. Although it's very unlikely that people in Asia have their own tree house. But private would be like a bedroom. So do you have a funny name for your private parts? Pee-pee, tea-wee, tea-hee-hee, and weenie, hot dog, something no one else but you know about. What is it? So you can even create a nickname for your private parts. lots of people, so they normalize it. Lots of people have their own special name for their private parts, but it's a good idea to know what the real names are as well. So it's so important that we know the real names, because when we are clear and accurate, we can then speak up for ourselves, and there is very little room for miscommunication. So if you don't know the names of your private parts, it makes you feel embarrassed, shy, you know, and you still use like little kid names. And so if you go to see the doctor, or if you need to report something to an adult, you won't be able to use accurate names that they understand. So this is awesome. So it's very, very simple, but the later pages are a little bit longer and more complicated. So now it says, if you're a girl, blah blah blah, you have many private parts. So now it differentiates between the parts of a girl or a woman, and you can see they start to show the anatomy. So you can actually go into quite a lot of detail, because you see, even in a sex ed book for a child who may be 5 or younger, you already give them the names of your vagina, labia, ovary, and your uterus. This is something that I didn't have growing up. And then they have for boys as well, and you can see in this one they show the testicles, the penis, the scrotum, and even some of my clients, they have difficulties using the words testicles and scrotum. And so now it goes on to talk about this is something, if you want to touch yourself, to do it in private, and it gives a demonstration of how you do it behind closed doors, say in your bedroom. And then it talks about the bodily changes, where you were a baby and now you become a boy, and then later you become a man. So they also do the same for people who have vaginas. They don't talk, so far I don't see them talking about sexual orientation or your gender. So what happens in more detail for women, and now starting to talk about the ovulation cycle, and then about boys, more about puberty, and then how the sperm meets egg to make a baby. So it's so important to start to explain to kids about this, because they already start to ask, where do I come from? And then it talks about the whole pregnancy, of how mommy and daddy is waiting for the baby to come out, and what happens in the hospital. Also talks about, so hang on. Also talks about how, goes back to the beginning, where it talks about you can feel proud of your body. The smarter you are about your private parts, the better you'll feel about yourself. So it gives permission to take a look at yourself in the mirror, and really, like, this is really about loving yourself, loving your body. Okay, so I was flipping through the book, and so this is the author's note. Authors writing to the parents, normalizing it, and then a paragraph about masturbation for parents. So that's the part where I said it's longer and more words, but actually, now that I've gone through it again, it's not that overwhelming. Okay, so the back of the book, it answers the question, Mom, where do babies come from? And this book is designed for young children who are becoming sexually aware but not yet ready to learn about sexual intercourse, written with warmth and honesty. And you can see this book is doesn't have that many words, and has very clear pictures. You can skip certain anatomy terms if you feel that they don't have that vocabulary yet, but you can go back to it as they get older, and this could be a book that answers that question. Oh my god, I'm so happy I got this book. I love it. I love it. And I wish that I had this book last week when I spoke with the parents with kids with intellectual disability. So like I mentioned, sometimes we overcomplicate things and we get scared about talking about sex with our kids. And so it's really important to ourselves be comfortable, like get a resource like this, so that this is the tool and you already went through it, you feel comfortable, and maybe you have already rehearsed it in your head how you want to talk about it to your kid, how you want to introduce it to your kid, and then you take your kid through it. And the way you say something, the tone is very important. And what you're doing is you're just normalizing it, meaning you're just letting your kid feel that this is just a normal process of growing up. And I remember when I was young that I look forward to growing up, because one day I can have sex just like my mom, because I didn't get sex ed growing up, just like many of my friends. But I remember one day I went to my mom and I just asked her, I say, Mom, like, how does sex feel like, really? And she didn't say anything. She probably is nervous to talk about sex with me, but she gave me a smile. And from that smile, I just interpreted it as something that I could look forward to, something that was good, fun, amazing, wonderful. And so I look forward to the day that I grew up. So that was it wasn't sex ed like verbally per se, but it was more the curiosity. And so there is a time for everything, and for me it was really about having something to look forward to when I grow up. That everything that I've gone through, like one day I'll grow up to be able to understand the things that I don't understand, and that it wasn't something scary or negative. So that was the message that I got from my mom, even at that age. Okay, so I'm going to sign off, because you don't know when the next announcement is coming. And I have 2 books here that I'm reading, so I'm just gonna hang out here and take it easy for the next 2 hours, and like the next 1 hour or so. And yeah, very glad I got this book. This is going to be my new resource that I would maybe bring to my workshops where there are parents. And yeah, I recommend it for sure. I'm so glad that I got this book. Actually got it with all the remaining Indonesian ringgit that I had, and also topped it up with some money from my credit card. It's fine, you know, it's much better than ordering it from overseas, and the postage, the shipping would have been more than $10 already. So quite happy that I got this book. Yeah, so I recommend it. So yeah, thanks for watching this video. Bye.